Picture this. A mysterious guest has taken up residence in the player's home village. He pays well and keeps to himself for the most part, but at the same time guards start reporting prowler incidents during the night. Then, on one particularly foggy evening, creatures descend from the skies at the command of this mysterious guest. The village rallies, and with the help of the players, the shadowy army is repelled, but not before the mysterious guest manages to slay one of the village elders. The elder you see belonged to an even older adventuring party, and the mysterious guest is a lieutenant of an even more powerful big bad. The elder brought a powerful item to the village generations ago, hoping to keep it secret from the big bad. Now the village needs someone to take this artifact to the Endless Pit, where it will descend to the center of the earth where nothing can escape. If the players do not undertake this lengthy quest, another lieutenant will be sent, and more will be killed. Only by removing the artifact can the village, and others like it, find peace. This is the weighty consequence of refusal that you must develop if you want to run the campaign format that I like to call the Trek. The Trek is our second intermediate format. Now the Radius is all about starting the players at A, going to B, and then returning to A once again. The Trek is all about starting the players at A and heading out to B without knowing if they'll ever return to A, or if A will even exist if they turn around and come back. Some of our most popular adventure stories are in the style of The Trek: A New Hope, The Dragon Knights Chronicles, Lord of the Rings. Chronicles of Prydain in its opening book, The Black Cauldron, also offers an interesting variation on the Trek. And many of these works lean on a mix of Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, as well as Aristotle's allegory of the cave. Campbell emphasizes an event that he writes as the refusal, in which the hero initially turns down their quest. This event reveals the consequence of that refusal, which is an essential motivation for taking the quest. Aristotle's allegory of the cave gives us a tool to emphasize one of the biggest risks to the characters, that they may be so changed by the trek that they can't return. They may be exposed to dark knowledge and experiences that alienate them from their simple origins. A frequent third component of the Trek is what writers call the MacGuffin, the object, idea, action, or message that is the source of the conflict. It is possible to have a Trek without a MacGuffin, but having one is a useful shortcut. The biggest difference from our previous campaign formats is the lack of a recurring hub. You can still have mini-hubs in the form of villages, towns, fortifications, and other encounters on the way to the goal, but even these are temporary. No location is permanent, and the allegiance of a location could shift if the PCs are too forward or even too reserved about their intentions. For excessive secrecy invites intrigue and curiosity from the locals. And the factions of the Big Bad's army may consume another location if the players don't cover their tracks well enough or fast enough. But if we're going to get into the details about that, we need to start talking about what you need to prep your Trek campaign. You need your starting point. You need to populate that starting point with things that are important to the PCs. You need the event that triggers the quest. You need an overt display of the consequences if the players refuse. And you need the overall parameters of success, which may involve a MacGuffin. And if you have a MacGuffin, there should be some complications that result from carrying or finding it. Does it weaken the PC that holds it? Does it have a beacon if its magic is used? Is it heavy? Does it have an existing reputation that makes it easy to recognize? Now, we mentioned the Black Cauldron earlier, and one option is that the MacGuffin is not in the hands of the PCs at all. A portion of the overall quest is undertaken to retrieve it. You don't need a big map of your hub or robust factions initially. You do need a general route and some known regions that the players will be passing through that they can plan for in their upcoming travels. Consider a main road, agricultural roads, wilderness, hunting paths, rivers, open seas, etc. And you need to be ready to route things in front of the players if they favor one path or another. What you especially need for the Trek: villains. You can have a big bad whom the PCs may or may not ever meet. Your big bad doesn't necessarily need statistics initially, but does need a reputation. This reputation is important to the consequence of refusal. More than the big bad though, you need lieutenants. The campaign prep you would do in other formats that is used to make factions should be partly shifted to here. Give your lieutenants a lot of variation. Make one conniving but cowardly, one honorable, one greedy, one vain, one seductive, one unsympathetically monstrous, who can only work alone, one potentially willing to switch sides, one uncompromising. And don't make them friends with each other necessarily. Give your social and trickster players a chance to play them against each other. These lieutenants are rivals for the big bad's favor. Now that you have all this ready, it's time for... Rather than following the cycle of acceptance, quest, return, and reward, an arc in the Trek represents major steps and the journey between steps on the route to the goal. And so you have two formats for your arcs. Regardless of whether the players are traveling or making a stop, there is always an important gamble, whether or not to reveal the nature of their quest. Depending on the circumstances, this could have positive or negative effects on the player's travel. And with each set of encounters, this needs to be prepared in advance, and as the GM, you should come up with some sort of tell or signal to help the players decide. Arc NPCs may want the MacGuffin for themselves. They may see themselves better suited to the quest, may want a reward for their own from the big bad, but they might also help shelter the players, provide shortcuts, or help delay the big bad's lieutenant if they consider the quest important enough. But let's get to those two arc formats. The first is the travel itself and the complications that can arise from the routes that the players have chosen. For main roads, the players will encounter travelers, officials, merchants, and others who will likely want to know why the players are traveling, and who will have their opinions on the matter of their quest, assuming the PCs reveal it. The risk of exposure is high, and encounters with lieutenants is increasingly probable on a main road, but travel is streamlined and social opportunities abound. For village or agricultural roads, the going is slower, encounters mix into the wilderness, the locals may be more superstitious and cautious around outsiders, and will remember the players passing if they are interrogated by enemy forces. Disguise may be the skill of choice. Village roads will be less patrolled and provide an easy escape into the wilderness if the players desire it. And speaking of wilderness, PCs could run into animals, hunters and trappers, reclusive but powerful beasts, hidden fae, cave dwellers, or even nomadic cultures. Stealth is the skill of the Arc, and combat is a frequent second. The only trail that the great enemy might find in the wilderness is that which the players leave behind by choice or by accident. Sailors have a culture all their own, but are often accustomed to landfolk paying for passage. Seafaring is fast but expensive, with much expected from the PCs if things turn sour. Their captain will form their own opinion of the PCs and their quest, and may relay what he's learned to authorities if he's found their actions suspicious. Our second type of arc for this campaign is the stop, which is exactly what it sounds like. Players will often stop if they've been told ahead of time that there is someone ahead that they can trust, or if they simply need to heal or resupply. However, this contact may have problems of their own that can only be resolved by the players. Do they need to escape a plague? Is there a curfew that makes the NPC's nighttime activities difficult? Are guards investigating a string of murders? Is the populace subject to regular checks and searches? There can always be something going on that invites the intervention of the PCs. Consult their personal motivations or alignment for ideas. But regardless of traveling or stopping, you can add flavor to a Trek arc by incorporating one of those lieutenants that you fleshed out in the campaign prep. Did they bribe the locals to act as lookouts? Are they whispering into the local magistrate's ear? Have they introduced some local supernatural effect? Have they assumed the identity of someone in power? Do they act covertly or overtly? Perhaps just outright challenge the players to an honorable duel? And the big questions: can the players kill the lieutenant? Is this villain the victory or death type, or do they prefer to live to fight another day? And the final question to answer at the end of a stop arc is: what is the state of the local area when the PCs leave? Is it better or is it worse? And what is the consequence of that new state? The Trek is a game about distance and time, and vital to each session is the tracking of both. Consider dividing the session into clear morning, evening, night blocks, giving each player a chance to decide how their character contributes to the travel or the stop for each block. Gathering supplies, posting watch, scouting ahead, and so forth. Based on the Arc's lieutenant, establish what activities may draw the enemy's attention and what the players might have to endure in such an encounter. And establish local encounters as you might do with the Radius format, appropriate to the terrain, time of day, and local theme. If the players are heading into a portion of your map that is only broadly defined, begin fleshing out that area, considering what terrain, peoples, traps, and creatures that might be encountered there. Check the state of your players. Are they nursing long-term injuries or fat with bags of gold? Maybe tempt them with an encounter to relieve them of both. But again, distance and time. The clock is ticking. There does come a point where players can no longer cover the required distance in the remaining time, and that is a key failure condition of the campaign. And that is the Trek. I've run the Trek mixed a bit with the menu, letting players crisscross the galaxy in search of clues to a mystery. It does provide that very epic feel of covering a lot of ground and doing something that changes the face of a region. And at the end, you have this big map of all the places you've taken your players and a tally of all the foes that they've cut down in the name of their quest. Have you run the Trek, or maybe know it by another name? Let me know in the comments, hit all the usual YouTube buttons, and happy gaming!